Even in the last episode, I was talking about the fact that I don't know when I'm gonna like fall out of love with Made in Chelsea. It's just sometimes the show is like, I think they like to not do anything different with Made in Chelsea. And I do think a lot of reality TV shows do have this problem of, I guess, staying with their foundation and the thing that made it popular. And then they just continue to do it. And it's just like they never want to give us anything new. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just I get so fed up being Chelsea sometimes. Even in this episode, so in episode 8, it was like obviously there was the scene between Philip and Georgia where obviously Georgia was like, "Oh, so I said to you that I loved you." And she said to Philip, "I said I loved you," and he was like, "Yeah, I said it back," and he was like, "Oh," and then he paused and like it was a dramatic pause, and I was like, "What is this? Like, did they mean to do that?" It was hilarious, and then I started laughing because I was like, "This show is actually really weird." Like, they generally thought that was a good way to like act. I mean, to be like, oh, to have the dramatic pause where Philip just stares at her and stares her down and then starts laughing. I was like, bro, Made in Chelsea comes across as a bit satire sometimes. It's like I'm not sure. It feels like a skit. At some moments it feels like a skit because what's going on? Like this is weird. No way. I'm gonna be talking to somebody anyways, or going or whatever relationship I have with somebody, yeah, then I'm gonna tell they're gonna say that they didn't mean to tell me that they love me, and they're gonna laugh in my face as well. Philip giggled in her face and was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't mean it." And then he was like, "No, I generally didn't mean it." And then we were like, "Oh," and then George was like, "Oh, just say it." And it was literally just like this can't be real. Like that's what I mean. I feel like this is the thing with reality TV. I'm always generally like, oh, I think I hate it when it's too glossed over. Like I'll watch it, but it's like, please don't try to like, what's the word, gaslight me or anything like that, because I can tell that this isn't, this is not like genuine. Like literally, is it gonna be like is that really gonna happen? I mean, for her to be talking to Philip and for her to laugh, for him to laugh, and we're like, nah, that's not real. And then they have like I think even in the last episode, so even let's give context. I obviously spoke about Made in Chelsea on here before. I think like 5 months ago now. So yeah, like obviously last season, series 30. I remember doing the last episode of series 30, and I was meant to obviously start doing like obviously this season, like genuinely guys, I was gonna be meant to be doing like that's why I even made a playlist on here. So I was generally meant to I guess start from the beginning, like in terms of I was meant to start from episode 1, like do you know what I mean, because we're now at episode 8, which is the episode we're talking about today. But generally I was like I would choose today's yesterday's episode, which is obviously Monday the 27th, just because I was like that just makes sense because it's the most fresh episode in my mind, seeing as it was generally just yesterday. And then also I was like the whole season so far, anyways, has been a bit like, do you know what I mean? It's been a bit crazy. But I will say that yeah, it has been a bit crazy, but episode 8 feels like, generally for me is where it's something I would want to focus on because again, episode 8 was just all over the place. Like how I was just talking about the Philip and Georgia thing, that was weird. Then you have Sam, and I'm so sick of Sam, like Sam Prince. Like I don't know what I think I said in the previous one, that's what the point I was getting onto was that in the previous episode that I spoke about Wade and Chelsea, I spoke about like I'm sure I did. I'm not sure though, like I spoke about how Sam, he's just a cog in this show, but in the way that like, oh, they don't want to take him out. Do you know what I mean? It's also how I feel about Zaino as well, and not even in like, do you know what I mean? Not even in a rude way, but it's like I guess it's like people like Zaino and also Olivia, because Olivia came in this show. Yeah, Liv came in this show through Jack, and then obviously Zaino came through this show through Harvey, right? She was Harvey's ex, and that's how she came into the show. And then obviously now we have this whole thing with her with Zaino and I guess what is it she's going on with right now? It's like Zaino, Armin, Angus. That's kind of what's been happening in this season so far. I mean, it's just what's been going on. And Liv even had her whole thing where she was doing I don't know what she was doing. She was doing like Jack, Jack. um Jack, Angus, and Kit. Like, do you know what I mean? There was all of that going on, and I don't even want to touch on that because I think I even spoke about how like I have a weird like. Yeah, there's something about Liv, like, and you know, for me, like, I would say that in terms of when I watch these reality shows, like, I wouldn't go on to say, oh, like, I hate Liv, but I think it's like the way that she acts on the show is very weird to me. And I think I might have said it before, which is why I won't even spend too much on this point. But it's like, obviously, the way that she acted, um, like, you know, in her breakup with Jack. And it's almost like when you think about reality TV, you think about, okay, like, these people broke up, but it's like, that's just how it looks like to us on the TV, and it could obviously have gone you know a different way. It just looks more dramatized on TV. It's just obviously when she broke up with Jack, it's like she immediately just jumped into like all these other things, and I felt so sorry for Jack at the time, but who really knows if you know that's how it genuinely went, or do you know what I mean, if it was added for storyline purposes, which most likely it probably was added for storyline purposes, and not just because, do you know what I mean? Not just because Liv wants to just, you know, mess around with Jack. Do you know what I mean? Because that is basically what it was, and that was kind of how I guess she was painted out to be. I mean, I meant in the show, it basically just seemed like they wanted to peg Liv as the bad ex. Do you know what I mean? And Jack was literally just like, "Oh yeah, you're getting with all these other people." Because it was literally like when I say, who did I say anyways? No, the triangle was like it was actually Kit and Chugs, right? Initially, it was Kit and Chugs. Then they threw a spanner in, which was Angus. And then obviously in the previous episodes, of course, of this season, they had that whole dinner where what's it called? They had this dinner where obviously Angus confessed to Jack that he kissed Liv. But then that's what I mean. They threw Angus in like a spanner, which was really confusing. So again, I just don't know. Like I don't know why they have to. I guess it feels crazy to say, but they just want to paint Liv as like the pass the parcel type thing. I don't know what that's about really, but that, you know, Liv can basically be the bad ex and like get with all of these guys. But and you know, like she's single and so that's fine. But like again, it's very like weird. I mean, in the way that she did it, I just mean the conduct. And maybe, you know, they just want to like portray it that way, but then maybe that's not generally how it happened in like real life. Do you know what I mean? Because again, I feel like when we see them having a live breakup on television, maybe again, that's really not how it is in real life, you know? Probably more time passes, I guess, in real life than it does on the show. Like, I mean, they probably might have already been broken up. Then they're like, I guess they'll say to the cast members, they'll be like, oh, you should have your breakup on TV because it makes for an interesting storyline. I mean, so I guess that's what they want to do. And then again, then it just makes, I guess, yeah, it just adds more so the drama element and makes Liv look bad, you know? But that's the only thing that I generally, I don't, doesn't sit well with me. I mean, in terms of Liv and like that whole thing, I mean, it's very, very weird. Like, because I generally didn't get it because I thought, anyways, when you break up with somebody, like, I don't know if really people say like, you know, should you really jump into it with somebody else? But I'm like, no, like it doesn't make sense to do that. I mean, you should generally take a break and like take time off because that's just how it works. And even she was getting stressed and crying at certain points in this season as well because you could see that she was overwhelmed. She was doing all this crazy stuff, but she didn't know why she was doing it. You know what I mean? It was weird. It was like she didn't understand why she was doing it. And then she was getting upset because people were being into her, like, do you want Kit? Do you want Charles? And she was like, well, you know, I want Kit, but then also she was stringing Kit along. And then shout out to Kit as well, because obviously Kit was like, oh, well, I don't want to do this anymore. Do you know what I mean? It was so good of him to do that because I guess not a lot of guys would do that anyways. Do you know what I mean? To be like, oh, yeah, you're faffing me around. Like, I don't want to be a part of this. Do you know what I mean? He felt like she was just stringing him along and that they did get on, but she was never gonna like choose him, and that also that's the whole thing. She knew she wasn't ready for another relationship with somebody else. So it's like, why was she even like doing it in the first place and like entertaining all this stuff when it was like this not what she wanted. I guess first of all, she just wanted to be single and be a young hoe. I mean, and that's okay. Like literally, she wanted to have one and be a young hoe, but I still thought the whole thing it just wasn't the way to do it, and it was really like hard to watch. And then that's when exactly when I said to you guys, I thought that's hot. That's when I start questioning like the show's intentions. I'm like, what are we doing? You know, why are we painting this person in this way? And then, you know, we're all gonna have conversations and be like, oh yeah, we hate this character or whatever. But it's like, hello, they're not characters though, because it's generally like, I mean, this is the thing with reality TV. Is like, yeah, we say they're characters, but they're generally real people on a screen that kind of just, I guess, live their lives out on TV. You know what I mean? So it that's what it makes you question from time to time. Sometimes you do have to put your thinker hat on because it's literally like, bro, like, what's going on? Yeah, I mean, Sam always annoys me. So even in this episode, like obviously Sam was the reason why um Georgia found out about the whole I love you thing. And it was like, why does it have to be you to like, you know, to relay that news? And like you weren't even there. That's what Philip said. Philip said to Sam, you weren't even there when it happened. So why do you feel like it had to come from you? And then Sam was just doing what he always does, which is like obviously worm his way into things just because, you know, he wants to break up a couple just to get in there. But the fact of the matter is like Sam's not somebody that anyone wants to date. And I mean lots of the girls have dated him already. Like especially remember Sam, I mean no, Inga and Yaz, who are obviously now friends. And then so it's like you can already see his like past experiences and how like two people who have both dated him, they're now like you know bosom buddies. Like that's what I mean. And that tells you a lot. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like two people trauma bonding over sharing the same ex. Do you know what I mean? That's what it is. That's literally what their foundation is. So it's literally like, you know, like I don't that's what I mean. I just keep thinking what is Sam's reasoning for being on the show, but it's literally just a check. And I'm not gonna hate on that, but like that's what it is. It's because it's like they make him do the same old things, and it's like he's not looking like bro, like literally, he's not looking for love. You would not see Sam, yeah, on like any of those reality dating shows. Like I've never seen him on any of those ones before. Of course, like even Chugs was from a reality dating show. I think obviously he was from Love Island, I believe. Yes, but I'm telling you, like someone like Sam, you'd never see Sam in any of those because you know what I mean. He even probably he knows he's not out here looking for love. He's looking out here just to like start trouble, and that's all he is. And I know that obviously people do feel like in a show you do need a character to have like I guess one main thing that they do and what they stand for, I mean. So in terms of just like, yeah, this is your role and this is what you do. And if we got rid of you, then like who would like right, exactly. Who would replace you? Do you know what I mean? Who would be able to stir the pot like you do and like I guess create issues and always be involved in every argument. Like someone like I guess, yeah, how Sam's always with Temps who was obviously Miles's friend, and Miles isn't really on the show anymore. But like, obviously, David's always with Sam, and then they always find themselves always at the front of like every single like I guess problem all the time, and that's just literally what they do. I don't know what else they do to be honest. Then obviously I was talking about the new characters thing and how there's loads of these new people like when I said about Zaino and Liv and like probably Armin as well. Armin was newish. I can't remember when he came in the show, but he was new-ish, and I actually terms of yes, I can't remember how he got in. Like generally, I actually can't remember that. And then I know that, like I said, I know about Zay and Liv's one, and then also, I feel like with Kit, I can't remember Kit's either. He probably was just a new addition. Like I think it's interesting when they are generally just new additions, and I mean like I think Chugs was also a new addition. When I say like new addition, I mean like they're not introduced to us through somebody else. I really don't like that. You know what I mean? As in when people bring right, they bring their friend in. I mean, everyone says that's good, you know what I mean? Because you're bringing your friend in to the fold, and that's good because it's like, yes, you both want to make money, ka-ching. But like, I feel like it's so weird because I meant we generally want, like, if you're gonna bring new people in, like, I guess it's like it should be a different way, and not in the way that it's like, yes, they came in for their specific reason, but I feel like, right. My whole thing is when I feel like when they come in for a specific reason and like their storyline is over, like that should be that. That's just me. I don't know. I only feel like in terms of in making a, because that's what I mean. I feel like reality TV again, like it's storylines, it's stories. They always need a story. So my whole thing is when the story ends, that person should leave. That's just my thing. Them staying here forever, or it's just like, why? Like what is the need for that? And then again, you just have all this other stuff. And then even, oh my gosh, even in this episode, there was someone new there, even. I think it was what was the person's name? Abby, but I really don't know that person. Like I generally don't know anything about her. And obviously she was there, I think, at Yaz's like I don't even know what that was about either. I'm telling you, sometimes these shows, they never really like I feel like they gloss over things like all the time and they never really always say what some things are. Except if we're talking about reality TV, I will say like Real Housewives and all those shows, they don't do that though. They're never gonna have you be like, oh yeah, you don't know what's going on and why this is happening, because it's generally like all the girls were together and then they would like I think Yaz was giving them some skincare and I was like, well, why? Like I don't know what it was for. Like I thought, oh yeah, it was Yaz doing some type of event, but then all of the girls were there and then they were just kind of speaking and then they obviously got on to speak about Inger and Jazz's stuff, and we're gonna leave Inger and Jazz's stuff for later. But like obviously I was just like, yeah, I just think that is the way it would go. And I would generally do that, I meant if I was somebody working at the Made in Chelsea team. Because even in the preview, you see that like well in the preview for next episode, episode 9, you see that like Tristan's talking to Zaino and he's saying like, oh, that he doesn't trust Zaino or whatever. And the only reason he doesn't is because she's Harvey's ex. And that's literally the only reason. And then he's close with Harvey because Harvey's his best friend. So it's a bit like, you know what I mean? I'm literally like, oh yeah, but if Zaino wasn't here, then this conversation wouldn't be happening. Do you know what I mean? And that's why for the story to flow, I just feel like it makes sense. In terms of like cutting people out when the story ends. And if you need to add a new character in, then that's fine. But I'm just saying somebody else, not somebody that's as I said, not someone that's been added in through somebody else, but like obviously just someone new from somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? Or just in Chelsea, maybe. They want the whole like new character because I know that the new characters thing is always just to have again new arcs, new storylines. So if they want to do that too, then again, like how they did Chugs, they should just pick people from I guess different reality TV shows. That's all they like doing. I mean, handpicking people from other ones. Like that's what I mean. I was very confused when Chugs even came in the show because it was so random. I was like, if that's the angle that they want to do, then they should just do that in general. But I feel like I'm trying to think also about all the stuff that happened in this episode because before I touched on the Jazz and Inga thing, because bro, I generally do have a lot of things to say about that. But I'm obviously trying to think about anything else that really occurred in the episode that really is worth mentioning. I do think, okay, there was that whole Angus thing, and then also, yeah, that whole Angus thing where he was obviously saying he wants to date older women. That's whatever. Do you know what I mean? I don't even know. Whatever. That's yeah, that's whatever. And then there was obviously, I guess, Freddie, Sam, and Alice and Bex. And then of course, exactly, they were meeting Marmaduke, which is obviously their son. And then obviously they were like, obviously, yeah, it was really weird because obviously Bex was like, oh, I didn't know that Freddie was coming. And then obviously Sam was like, oh, but like you guys are fine. But it was like, why would you invite her ex there who like she's been having problems with. Like they were literally just arguing in like the last, I guess in the previous episode they were just having an argument. So it was a bit like, oh, like why Bex is like, why is he here? And I like that Bex really, has, what's the word? I guess that she has self-respect for herself. I mean, in the way that Freddie pitched this idea to her, being like, "Oh yeah, let's be friends with benefits because of course we already dated. So like, do you know what I mean? We may as well do that." And he's just saying for the meanwhile before he goes away. But at least she can turn to him and be like, "No," because she didn't even ask for it either. Like she said to him, like, Freddie, I didn't even want this. Do you know what I mean? And she was like, and that's why she was very annoyed that he decided to even, I guess, pitch the idea to her, because that is crazy. Like, why would you ever ask your ex to do that? And I guess some people would do it. Like, that's the thing. It's not to say it's completely unheard of, because some exes will do it, but it's like, what does it really solve? Like, you guys broke up for a reason. So really, what is the point of really indulging in all that casual stuff? It doesn't really solve anything. I think my whole thing when I always think about like people doing that, it's all just for like, yeah, it's for company, and like that's all you want from it. It's literally, but it's temporary. I'm telling you right now, it's temporary. It won't help you long term. It won't help anything, and it doesn't solve anything. Because you guys still remember about the issues that you've already had in the past. So you're not going to be heading towards getting back together. You're just going to be doing it for the sake of doing it. You know what I mean? It's gonna be like worthless in the end. I know it's like it's crazy. Sometimes I'm like to myself, oh yeah, does it work? Is there a rare occurrence that it can generally work? But like, oh, I feel like no, I was gonna say yes, then I was like, no. Sometimes maybe it can work, but I'm generally saying most of the time it doesn't. Like, if we look at the case studies, I mean, I'm like, bro, it's not like it's completely successful. It's just if you are gonna do that, it's gonna have to take a lot of like groundwork. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to think about what the reason was for ending, and you're gonna have to work towards that. You know what I mean? You're really gonna have to like repair. It's not something that's gonna even like happen overnight either. And then okay, to get on to Jazz and Inger, like, bro. But Jazz and Inger, for me, it's just even again because reality TV, it feels like it's something you can't even put too much on as a just from obviously as a viewer's perspective. I was literally just like, why would Jazz have fabricated this in her mind? Do you know what I mean? Why would she have made it up? I was thinking like the whole time, like, yes, you guys kind of practically had a homoerotic friendship, and like, bro, like that happens all the time. But I meant in the way for like, and when I say it happens all the time, I mean for like, queer lesbian women, it happens all the time. Do you know what I mean? It's not like anything new, but it was just weird that like I guess Inga was just she was basically being on the fence about it and saying like, she didn't want to take any kind of accountability for anything that she could have done. And I found that really weird because it was literally like, even I guess in this episode when she was saying how she heard Jazz saying that she kissed that Jazz told people that Inga had kissed her on the neck or wherever. But we're like, don't scrutinize on that. Let's think about everything else. For me, what one thing I was really thinking about, which stood out to me, was generally like the fact that Jazz said Inga and like her and Inga would like have cuddles and all this stuff. Like, do you know what I mean? Those are the gray areas, if you think about it. Like that's what Jazz tried to explain to her on the bridge. Oh yeah, and also exactly, they brought back the bridge. You know what I mean? Because when I saw them having the conversation on the bridge, I thought about like the iconic, what was it, Spencer Matthews like scene, I guess when he's with Louise. I thought about that because they always take the confrontations to the bridge. Sometimes they really do. I find it really hilarious. They're like, yes, we're gonna use the bridge in this instance, and I love it. And then of course, I think they used it because right, Inga did eventually end up walking away, so I was like, well, yeah, that's why they used it. It's like their ace card. They were like, yes, let's pull it out. Let's pull it out because of course we generally need it in this instance because obviously they did come to like I was gonna say come to blows. No, they didn't fight, but it was obviously quite heated because again, obviously they were kind of both shouting. Yeah, they were generally both shouting at each other, and obviously Inga was just being like, "Well, no, it wasn't romantic on my end," and then Jazz was like, "Well, obviously the way that you acted made me feel this way," and then it was a bit like that. It was a little like it was very much tit for tat. Like that was kind of the conversation. But I generally do think that like obviously Inga has yeah, like Inga has like strewed some things to Jazz, and then I like how obviously Jules was sticking up for her when all the girls were together because it was generally like this is the thing. It was like she said at the table, she was like, let's bear in mind that Jazz is, Jazz does like women. Do you know what I mean? So can we need to remember that. And then obviously they're all like yeah. No, like literally when Jules said that, it literally seemed like oh it went over everyone's head. Like it looked like that to me because everyone paused when Jules said it and then afterwards they were all looking at each other like okay. Like literally, it was literally like, oh yeah, we couldn't care less. Do you know what I mean? It kind of gave that to me anyway, in the way that yeah, Jules had to be like, I do want us to remember this though. And again, it's very important to remember. We said yeah, exactly. If you're like, oh yeah, you're like that with everyone, because that's what Yaz was trying to say. Yaz was being like, oh. This is just how Inga communicates, or this is how Inga usually is, or Inga's usually chillaxed, or she's very close and all that type of stuff. And we're like, okay, yeah, but then let's bear in mind that Inga's not just hanging out with someone, I guess two people who both like guys. You know what I mean? It's not a thing like that. Maybe there wouldn't be do you know what I mean? Maybe there wouldn't be any gray area if that wasn't the case. Do you know what I mean? Maybe there wouldn't be. But even then, this is the thing. For me, I'm like, we can even remove, the Jazz's queer identity. We can remove it completely if we want. And literally say, in terms of how she's been acting with Jazz, it's just like no one would do that. Like literally Jules was generally like, yeah, me and Jazz, we don't do what you do, like literally we're like we have to be honest and put this on the paper that, I don't really, chill, cuddle, hang out with my friends like that. We're not cozying up together on the sofa. That's weird. Like literally. And then obviously, what was also to me actually in their conversation on the bridge? I swear Inga said something like, oh yeah, I thought you were my soulmate or whatever. And I was like, soulmate? But really, exactly, when you think of the word soulmate, I don't know. Like, of course, you can call your friends your soulmate, but like, it's not really like you're doing it very, very often. Like, I meant when you call your friend your soulmate, you're generally like, yeah. For me, I just feel like that soulmate word does hold a lot of like weight. I mean, I don't think it's literally just something that you just say. And again, I do think that like literally like if you do say that someone's your soulmate, it can be seen as romantic because again, when you think of soulmate, everyone wants to find someone who's like just like them and like who but not even just like them, but really like someone you feel like you generally like click with, like in the way that like you literally click and there's literally nothing else. And that's kind of I guess what they were saying. Like Inga's like, oh yeah, I thought we had this really great close relationship, I thought it was great or whatever, and then she was like, oh but I'm kind of regretting it now. Yeah, she was like, I'm kind of regretting the friendship now. And it was generally like, but yeah, you're regretting it because of the way that you've acted and your conduct, like literally the way that you've gone about the friendship. And I also think if we also add this in as well, which is I feel like very important, but like obviously Jazz ended up breaking up with Demi, and it's like that's something that shouldn't be like missed, I don't think. I don't feel like they mentioned that yesterday, but like in the episode, but it is very important because that just means that like because I thought Yaz was asking Inga like, oh yeah, I think when Jack was also there, so when Jack spoke to Inga near the end of the episode, and obviously she's like Jazz was. I mean, Jazz was like to Ingo, do you feel like Jazz like loved you? And we were like, well, yes. This is what we're talking about, by the way. We are talking about the fact that Jazz was practically in love with you, and then why else would Jazz be in love with you if she didn't make that exactly? If you didn't make her feel like she could fall in love with you. Not to say that, people fall in love with people all the time and like, you get nothing back. But I think that's completely crazy. Like there is such thing, of course, as unrequited love. But all I can say is there's no way that you're generally also gonna like fall for someone who hasn't been like giving you anything back. Like sometimes we can all be a bit delusional about things. That's perfectly fine. It happens, but I'm saying like it's generally just it's not just gonna be the only basis. Like I mean, delusion can only get you like so far. Like that's only my thing. And I think as I guess somebody, yes, somebody has experience. I'm just saying I don't think that delusion can get you all the way because you're generally not going to like fantasize exactly fantasize a relationship out of thin air. Like if they're doing stuff that make you feel like they might see you in that way, of course that's where you're going to end up. I mean, you're literally going to end up there, and it's generally a bit crazy. But I just think like yeah, like Jazz having to break up with Demi because she felt bad. Like literally, Jazz broke up with Demi because she almost felt like she was like cheating on Demi. Do you know what I mean? Like in that whole time, it was generally like I guess that's why Jazz said to Ingo it was basically around the Scotland time, like while they were on the trip. And obviously, Jazz broke up with Demi, like I guess around that time, like around the Scotland trip. And then obviously the only reason why was because she felt like she was doing something wrong and she generally felt like, she had more feelings for Inga that she like exactly that she let on at first. You know what I mean? She didn't really realize what it was to begin with, but then as it went on, she kind of was like, oh, like I can't continue being with Demi because do you know what I mean? I don't feel like this is right. I mean, it does say on Google that Demi Sims and Jazz Saunders split in December 2025 after a 10 relationship stemming from a combination of long distance pressures and conflicting feelings. And according to reports, Jazz feeling the need to be free. I mean, I feel like when they started out, like I was actually so on board with their relationship. And also, it was a big deal to me because obviously I watched Demi in the only way is Essex. And literally, so when Demi came on board into the show, it felt like, I guess, yeah, as somebody, I was like, oh, it felt like a huge crossover episode to me. That's what it felt like. So I was literally very much on board for them. But then, of course, I did think about the fact that, like Demi was someone who like she knows who she is. I mean, so I generally thought about that and like how Jazz came out later on in life. So it's a bit like I did think initially, how far can their relationship really go? Because again, Jazz hasn't really been able to experience all of that. Jazz hasn't been able to really, because when you come out, I feel like you should generally be able to like yeah, do everything you need to do, I mean, and to generally be completely sure and like secure in who you are. So it's literally like you can't necessarily do that um while being in a relationship. You can't do it. And then I think they were obviously talking sometimes on even scenes in the show, like where I guess Jazz would be like, "Oh, like you don't trust me or whatever," and then Demi would be like, "No, but of course I do. I never know made you feel like I don't." But then you could generally just see that there was a bit of like, I guess, what's it called? Yeah, like I guess some kind of complications regarding that. Because this bit in the article, which is from Heat World, does say Jazz and yeah, Debbie split in 725 after meeting in the summer, with Jazz recently revealing she now has feelings for Inga, something Jules also hinted at. So it was literally, I feel like what I just said, like, may even be too much to, like, I guess, pour into, like to put all bets in, I mean, and say, oh yeah, this is the reason for their split. But it also, again, obviously was to do with the whole trust thing and the reason why, like, Jazz needed to be like out and free and everything like that. But then obviously, I do think, again, shortly after that, you know, she did meet Inga, and she did have this great big like yeah, big kind of, I guess, revelation. And then that's kind of, again, for me, when I just said that as well, I feel like that's kind of what the show makes you think anyways, because it is how, like, generally it was very weird because I guess how they portray it in the show, I mean, was that, like, of course Inga came to Scotland, and then obviously people found out about, like, Jazz and Demi split like a few days afterwards. So, like, the show made it seem like, you know, Inga was the catalyst, I mean, for their breakup. Of course, we know that's not the case. But as I said about, literally, as I said about shows and how they work and how, they try to fit these stories in, it just generally does feel like um, that was, I guess, something else that played a part in the fall of their relationship. But again, that could not be the case. I mean, I guess probably shouldn't. Yeah, we shouldn't say that it's the case, but I mean, you literally never know. Of course, that article was basically just talking about how that Jules knew that, like, her and Demi weren't gonna work. But again, it's just still, you do have to think about these things. And I do think back to the whole like Jazz and Inga thing. I do think that, like, yeah, Inga is wrong because, like, I do feel like there is kind of, like, exactly, there you do need to really be cautious when being in a friendship, like, I guess, with somebody, I mean. And, like, I know it sounds weird, but I mean in the way that, like, you literally can't be too too close, I mean, because you just never know what can happen. That's the whole thing. I don't know why Inga didn't, like, think about it either. And then, kind of, when you do that, generally when you do have something like that good with someone, and then I guess it's someone exactly of the same gender, I mean, someone of the same gender, and someone that you could actually, see yourself fancying, and you're like, and I guess Jazz was being like, yeah, Inga's attractive, and then it was a bit like, oh yeah, we also have this great bond. So it was literally two for two. Like, it was literally two for two. It was like, what else is there? And I do think, like, yeah, like, England just should have, like, tread treaded carefully. I mean, like, it just didn't really seem like like she didn't. And then she was the one who kept being like, oh yeah, it's not romantic, and she just kept saying that all the time, and it was a bit like, well, it's not romantic on your end, but, like, who's to say? Like, that's what I'm saying. Who's to say it's not on Jazz's? Like, I was just like, it just felt very weird. Well, like, of course it wouldn't be that from your side, because, but then the thing that also annoys me is, like, it seemed like, that's what I mean. Like, I just think it's weird because Inga is obviously just saying she doesn't feel like she's misled Jazz, like, at all. But then it's like, in some instances, you're like, there were times when she would say stuff, and it would seem like she was telling Jazz, oh, like, it could happen. I think that's even what Jules said to her again at the table. Like, Jules was saying, like, stuff that you would say could be seen as, yeah, as, like, to be misconstrued and to be misleading. Like, even when her and Jazz was speaking, I feel like, again, a few episodes ago, probably being like, oh, she was like, oh, like, I've obviously, like, again, like, she said she might have dated women or not really, but she hasn't really been in a relationship with one, but she's had, like, little things with them or whatever. But she's like, oh, she could never see herself, like, dating a woman. But even those things, still makes it sound like, there's potential there, or there's room. Like, you know what I mean? I do feel like if you got that statement from someone, it would generally feel like, oh, so you're saying there is a slight chance, you know? I just mean, that's what I mean. Like, Ava generally could have handled this situation a whole lot better. Like, if she wanted to be like, that she was generally being like, no, 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 or like being, I guess, firm on it, then we could be like, sure, that's what you've done. But I feel like just from even being like viewers and like the audience, we can see that that's not the case. And again, that's what I mean. We don't get to see the ins and outs. And even when I started talking about this, we don't get to see the ins and outs, but we do get to like hear. Do you know what I mean? We do get to hear, and we do get to like see conversation that people have about it. So we're generally like, when we pick up on those things, we're a bit like, okay, yeah, this does sound a bit weird. And like, it's fair that, Jazz had this idea, and like, do you know what I mean? And I feel like, yeah, and it's weird because even Kit was involved in that whole stuff as well. Like, that's what's so crazy. Because I mentioned Kit earlier, and Amber, and I said because he was involved in that whole love triangle with Liv and Chugs, right? But then he got into another one again. I was actually like, poor Kit. Like, how is it he's like, encompassed in another love triangle? I was like, get this guy out. Like, it was crazy. But I don't even feel like Inga was really like, she wasn't even really giving him anything, if I'm honest. I don't even know. Like, their little thing that they had, or like, it was going to be a relationship or whatever, it just didn't feel like she was even really pouring into that. Like, it seemed like she was pouring more into her, like, friendship with Jazz. So I was like, that's what I mean. Like, that's very weird. And then, like, obviously Jazz also went on a date with Mary, and then it's like, I don't even know what that was about, but it seemed like, Jazz was trying to get over Inga, and then obviously then they have these problems again, and it's just generally like, yeah, it kind of feels like, because that's what I mean, Jazz might even see it that way too, but like, that this has all started because Jazz has gone on a date with this other person, and Inga doesn't really want to lose her in any way, but she's been acting like, oh yeah, I'm all for Jazz speaking to other people or whatever, and I'm all for her dating someone else, but it really doesn't seem that way, if I'm honest, and if I feel like, kind of, when from watching the show and being like, her being like, yeah, she likes Kit, but like the love triangle ended because she wasn't sure like that she really liked Kit, and that she chose Jazz over Kit. So I was like, what are we talking about? Like, literally, you didn't decide to pursue that thing with this guy because of your friendship with Jazz. In fact, that says a lot anyways. Like, it does say a lot. So I don't know why there's anything to even question. I also feel like you could probably also say that Inga generally might just be afraid as well. You could kind of actually look at it that way. Like, in terms of how, when you think of like, oh yeah, someone who's closeted, it gives that, someone who's closeted and doesn't really want to come to terms with that part of themselves. I think that's what it is, to be honest, as well. You sometimes do see those people, and like the signs that they have are very much like, you know what I mean? They're very, I want to say like, yeah, they're red flags and they're very bright. I started thinking about Heated Rivalry, even though I haven't finished watching it, but I generally started thinking about Heat Rivalry just in the way that, like, like, you guys are doing all of those stuff, but like, you're not actually getting together, because if anyone found out, then like, it would be horrible. You know what I mean? But it's not even like it would be the same for Inga. I'm just saying, she, when how she was talking to Jazz before, I just kind of feel like, she doesn't really want to venture in that place yet. I mean, she doesn't want to venture into a relationship, I think, end of, like she said. She said she doesn't really want to like do that in general, but I also think she doesn't want to tap into um that side either. She knows that they're like, I guess maybe she's saying, I guess there's an attraction there for women, but I don't really think she's ready to really uh step into that world just yet. And that's why Jules called her out on that important thing where she said something like, oh, that maybe 3 months down the line or something like that. The quote was like 3 months down the line, oh, then she might be ready. And it's like, why even say that? Because that's what I mean. People, again, if you do stuff like this, people do pick up on these things and then they're like, well, then maybe I can stick out for all that time and maybe I can wait. And it's like, what? No one's waiting for you. Like, literally, no one's waiting for you. But, like, I do feel like that's kind of what she would have yeah, she would have been feeling like, and it's actually just so normal. Maybe if I can also, from this episode, I could maybe try doing an episode next week as well. So obviously episode 9, but we'll see how that goes. That's just if anything really happens that really like makes me want to talk about it. Like the whole Jazz and Inga thing made me want to talk about the show because I was literally like, it was kind of annoying me a bit. I was kind of actually getting a bit annoyed. It was just annoying me in the way that, again, it didn't seem like Inga was taking any accountability, and I didn't like that. And then she was obviously just throwing it all on Jazz, and then she was then saying to Jack like, oh, like everyone's putting it on me. And then I was like, well, who else would it be on? You know what I mean? Like, I meant in these predicaments, who else would it be on? Because people like to say that, like, I guess people who are queer sometimes get too over friendly with their female friends, and when we're like, well, that's not what's happened in this case. Literally, that is one of those things. That's why I feel like it probably did like trigger me because I was literally a bit like, no. And then I think, remember, Inga started crying and like in this episode, and I started laughing because I was like, wait, why are you crying? No, literally, I was literally like, why are you crying? Because this is the thing, like I said about that point I just mentioned, like people will always say that like queer people are always like, I guess, wanting to be with their friends, and that's literally the stereotype that's like it follows queer women everywhere. And I was literally like, well, that's not even what's happening in this instance. Like literally it's been the other person, so I'm literally like, that's really not fair. So I think that's generally why I was like, well, I need to talk about Made in Chelsea today because actually like fix up for real. So I don't even know. Like I think they're saying that they think that they might not be friends and they can't go back to their friendship. And I think that's for the best. Anyways, also I do think like how can you generally come back from that anyway? You know? There's no way you can. And specifically because it's really because I guess even her friends were like, exactly, there's no way that she can probably like be friends with Inga again. Like she had feelings for her, and the only way that, she'll be able to like, yeah, like the only way she'll be able to properly move on and like all that stuff and like put it behind her is exactly to not be friends with Inga. And maybe, I guess, in the future, she could try being friends with her again, but it's like, right now, no. Because exactly, you're not going to get over somebody if you're around them all the time. The only way you can do that is if you cut them out completely. But yeah, literally, it's literally the only way. That it's the only solution, and that's how it works. But thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next episode about Chelsea. So episode 9 next week. Bye.